Here's a video that encaptures some of what we do for a diagnostic on almost any item that comes into Bauer Sales and Rentals for service. Specifically, snow blowers right now. We're getting ready for a season. October is a great time to get your snowblower out of the shed, get it fired up and make sure it runs. We offer an extensive service program that can do that for you and make sure everything functions for you. We go through all the functions, including making sure the chute functions, the gears are there, need to be lubricated. We go through a diagnostics first of all before we start any service process to make sure that everything starts and works as it should. Inspect the starter rope, make sure the starter rope is in good health and not fixing to fray somewhere. We check the engine oil to make sure that it is at the right level and make sure there's nothing going on with bad oil or gas in the oil that may be a symptom of something going wrong with the engine. We always put fresh fuel in the unit upon diagnostics, may even pump the old fuel out if there's a portion in there, and refill it with fresh fuel to make sure that you're starting with a fresh tank and that we're testing it with a fresh tank of fuel in it. We test the electric start to make sure that it functions as it should, and move right into operations of the unit to make sure that it starts and runs as expected for you when you get it back to your property. Make sure that the impeller turns, make sure that the drive A functions and is in good power. Check all the gears to make sure they operate in the proper speeds. This can be adjusted. The low speed is extremely important when we're in that deep snow, and of course your fast speed when you're transporting in and out of your garage to get it out to the drive where you may be needing it again. Make sure that it actually runs at the right RPMs, idles, and if it shuts down at any point, we may suggest that you need a carburetor cleaning and or rebuild, and that'll get quoted in the estimate that you'll receive via text and email after this whole process is completed. Of course, if you're not adept to receiving emails and text messages, we still use the phone to communicate as well. We do our best to remain communicative through the entire process of diagnostics and repair. Tires get inspected for dry rot and for leakage. Obviously, tire pressure gets checked. At this point of the diagnostics, tire pressure gets inflated to the appropriate level and inspected again when we do the repair to make sure you're not experiencing a leak that will leak back down before you're able to use it this winter in the snow. All this information gets entered in our system for future reference and for your notes so we know what's going on with your machine. Scraper bar and the skid shoes themselves are important to operation of the snowblower to make sure your housing is not being worn unnecessarily, and also to make sure you get the proper cleaning. Belts get inspected. Belt guards are removed from the top side if they are, and from the bottom side, as you'll see, to make sure that your belts are in good condition and not worn, and all the adjustments are in the proper positions so it'll function as expected. Again, if we find anything going on there that may need to be addressed, that'll be recommended in your estimate, and would leave it your choice to replace and or repair anything that we're finding there. After that's complete, we set the snowblower up on its nose, as we call it, to access the bottom side from the machine to again inspect bushings and bearings for the drive system, together with the rubber drive disc in many cases. There's some newer units that use hydrostatic drive, but most of them use a rubber drive disc, again together with a belt driven, and bushings, chains, etc. gets inspected during diagnostics to make sure there's nothing worn there that we might recommend to have replaced while we're doing the repair. This will all get adjusted and lubricated during the repair itself. All of this is the first step that gets completed on your machine when it arrives here, either by being picked up through our pickup and delivery service, or you can drop it off at any point during our business hours to start this process. All these records are kept carefully by model and serial number of your unit. that will keep a service history available for you by request, or of course for ourselves, so we can review what's been done in the past. We use a tagging system that allows us to keep track of what stage your unit is in our service system, together with a tag system, so we do our best to make sure that your machine is handled carefully and returned to you again when the repair is complete.